Hello and welcome to City at a Glance. I'm Kelly DiMartino. As you know, City at a Glance is a program where we talk about some of the events and projects that are going on in the city of Fort Collins. And we're pleased today to be talking about some new and exciting things that are happening in both our cultural services and also the city's recreation department. As always, we're pleased to have joining us City Manager Darren Atterbury. Darren, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Kelly.
Today we have three guests I'd like to introduce you to. First of all, we have Jill Stillwell, who is our Cultural Services Director. Jill, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thanks. Bob Adams, who is our new Recreation Director. Bob, welcome to the show and to the city.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to working here.
Great. And Marty Heffernan, who is the Director of Culture, Parks, Recreation, and the Environment.
Way to go, Kelly.
All right, I got it right. Thanks for being here, Marty. So again, these are two areas of the city where we have some really new and exciting things happening, and we want to spend just a little bit of time today sharing those with our citizens and letting them know. Darren, could you kind of set the stage for us by talking a little bit about kind of the environment here within the city that is allowing these new things to be happening?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Kelly. Another important topic, and the great news is this is all great news. As I look around the country and see what other cities are doing or not doing, if you look in total, Fort Collins is really one of the best places to be in America as it relates to some of the facilities we're going to be talking about today. I mean, some of the stuff that's going on in your area, Jill, and is just amazing, and I know yours as well. So I look forward to the conversation. Frankly, in my opinion, the way these things happen is by a community that supports its local government and supports high quality. And so we talk about world class, but decade after decade after decade, citizens of Fort Collins support quality and support systems and facilities and parks and other recreation programs that actually really reflect world class. And so, it's an opportunity to say thank you to this community for passing 2B, Keep Fort Collins Great. That we'll be talking about some things that relate to Keep Fort Collins Great, and again, providing quality services is not free. And the fact that 60+% of our voters who voted said yes, not only will people see the results of that work, in particular in this area that we're talking about today, but as leaders in this organization, we also have a serious responsibility to deliver on what we promised. And we'll do that. And so I'm excited about it. Bob, I'm really looking forward to, you've just started, and I want to welcome you as well. I've heard great things about your work, and I'm really, really excited. And frankly, I think you've signed up for a great team as well. So hopefully this is a great beginning of a great two-way relationship. So I'm really, really happy you're here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that process,
Yeah,
Marty.
I was going to jump in on that because it's a good segue actually, because the voters backing the tax increase last November provided the funding actually to hire Bob's position. So we were without a recreation director for a couple of years due to the retirement of our former director. And we also were looking at some difficult programming and maybe even facility cuts in recreation with perhaps the closure of Mulberry Pool and reducing programs at a lot of other recreation facilities, particularly the Northside Otslon Center. So it's such a privilege to be in the situation we are, where we now have funding levels like we did in the past, because that new tax provides $1 million for recreation. And so it's really a great situation that we could hire the director and then actually keep the programs and facilities that we had before. And then now we're going to improve them. And things are going to get better. So just a little background on the process we went through. We actually did a national recruitment for the recreation director, and we had over 330 applications, and an excellent.
Did you see mine?
Yeah, I did see it in there. Yeah.
You put me out the first round. I didn't make.
Yeah, I was expecting a phone call, but
yeah,
got away with that one. So anyway, we had a great candidate pool. We did extensive interviews, and turns out that Bob Adams was the best person for the job, and he hails from Greeley and has had my position actually in Greeley before he came over. And Bob can talk a little bit more about his background, but it was interesting to me that we went through that significant process, excellent candidate pool, and then ended up with a great selection in Bob, who was right in our backyard. So.
Great. Well, Bob, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and What makes you excited about taking on this challenge here at Fort Collins?
So this is the final step in the interview process. Yes, do tell us about yourself, please.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in Greeley, Colorado, and I've gotten to know northern Colorado very well. I was saying during the interview process that one of the reasons I wanted to work for Fort Collins is, the word world-class facilities and stuff. That's exactly why I wanted to come over here. Is all the programs that are ran over here, they're top-notch in Colorado, and the recreation staff and programs that are run are known throughout the state. And so that's one of the reasons why I did apply for the job and accept the position. Some of my experience is I attended UNC in Greeley and got a BS in business management as well as recreation, and spent probably the last 20-some years working in the field of parks and recreation, and it's been a great experience. I've had some experience up in the town of Breckenridge as well as the city of Greeley, and I hope to bring some of those experiences to Fort Collins and hopefully improve already great staff and programs that they already offer.
And one thing that attracted us to Bob as the top candidate was the combination of recreation background and a business background. That's a pretty unique combination in the recreation field oftentimes, and at the same time Bob had experience building new facilities in Greeley, was instrumental in a sales tax increase that they had approved by the voters several years ago that allowed them to build their Funplex, which is a multi-purpose recreation facility, and their ice house, their new ice facility there. And so lots of experience with new facilities, and then also going through some difficult economic times like Fort Collins has recently, and having to look at efficiencies and cost reductions and ways of generating revenue, but still achieving the mission of high quality, affordable, accessible recreational services. So it's a really great package, great level of experience, and part of what I'm asking of Bob is to really take a fresh look at recreation programs, recreation facilities. I'd like him to actually develop business plans for those operations, as well as help position us, hopefully someday, to find the money to build and operate a new recreation facility in South Fort Collins. So there's a lot that Bob and I will be working on coming up, but I'm really excited about it.
Great. Yeah, I think it's interesting as I'm listening. We are very fortunate to have new resources, but it has not lessened the emphasis on using the resources that we have efficiently.
Right.
And that's kind of what I hear you saying. That's also true in our cultural facilities, right? As we talk about Lincoln Center, I'm going to shift over there for just a little bit and have you talk a little bit about kind of your philosophy. We'll get into all of the new and exciting stuff, but
Sure.
Can you share a little bit about that practice?
Sure. Lincoln Center receives about 25% of its budget from the general fund of the city of Fort Collins, and 75% is actually self-generated through room rentals, ticket sales, grants and sponsorships, those types of things. And it's been an ongoing challenge to continue to retain that level of self-sufficiency on our part. We're really outpacing the national trend, which is more at a 50 to 60% level of subsidy from a parent organization, and so we feel like we've got a good model, and we continue to try to find ways that we can be more effective and more efficient, and also to provide great customer service, because as a facility that people come to have an experience, that's really important to us. And we also subscribe to the world-class mantra. That's really what we try to provide, is world-class experiences in the cultural realm. And this renovation we're just completing right now is all based on the customer and patron experience, as well as the performer experience, and how they can deliver a better product on stage, or the patron attending can have a much improved experience in the facility.
So the Lincoln Center has actually been closed for a year. You've kind of alluded to that, and we are getting close to the point of reopening. So let's talk a little bit about that project and kind of what's going on and what you're most excited about.
Sure.
Well, I can start off with just, again, thanking the voters, because the project actually was on the last capital program that the city asked the voters to fund, which is called Building on Basics, and that was funded a few years ago and included Lincoln Center, about $5.5 million for the renovation. That actually came about in part because of work that Jill did. So thanks to Jill for putting together a cultural plan, cultural facilities plan. So we had done our homework and we knew what we wanted to do. So we were ready to ask the council and Darren to support asking the voters to fund that, which they did. So that's where a lot of the money came from. And then I'll turn it over to Jill as far as what's been going on with the renovation and
Sure.
additional funding that they've been able to secure and that kind of thing.
Sure. Well, the wonderful thing about the citizens supporting this project is that it allowed us to go out and leverage that money in the private sector from foundations and grant-making agencies as well as individuals to really increase the total budget to up to just over $8 million for the renovation. So it was a wonderful vote of confidence from the citizens, and then the private citizens came in and helped us complete the project. So we were able to do a lot of great things in the building. We've increased the total square footage by about 17,000 square feet. And I think people who've been in the building before remember the maze that it could be and the tight spaces you'd find yourself in. So this has really allowed the building to stretch out and increase the walkways and improve the flow through of the building. We have larger lobbies, we have more restrooms, we have an elevator up to the balcony level, and we've also added a gallery space, remodeled the Canyon West Ballroom into a beautiful new contemporary room that's already been rented a few times because we're just starting to reopen now. And we also have a great new space called the Rooftop Deck, which is a second-story rentable space that looks out over the entry plaza of the building. So, as I mentioned, we're focusing on the patron experience, but also the performer experience. So we're able to build a new dressing complex off the back of the performance hall and provide some professional level dressing amenities for the groups that come through. And we're having a series of national touring productions come through this coming season, and this really helps us provide great amenities and raise our bar in the industry.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. So, Darren, have you toured the new facility?
About every week.
Okay, so tell us what
Yeah,
you're most
yes, I have.
impressed with or most excited about with the new facility.
Wow, that's a big question. I'm most impressed with the overall modernization of the facility. So that means sort of all. What I love about it, I love the exterior, the garden space. I'm not sure what we're calling it, plaza. I like the entrance. I like the plazas, the open space inside. I like the outdoor patios. I like the new community room or whatever we're calling it. The old Canyon West room, which is the biggest room in the facility. It's now, it just doesn't feel dated anymore. It's very modern. It feels very professional. I love the fact that Jill and her team have just an incredible high energy around this facility, and just are going to be leading that facility in a very progressive, optimistic, positive way that will bring more pride to the community. So lots of things. I mean, I too heard about restrooms. So the restrooms we won't be hearing about anymore, other than, wow, what cool restrooms.
We'll still hear about it.
We'll hear about them. But and I mean, that was a big deal. That sort of was an anchor, and there were lots of sort of anchors in that facility. But overall, I think it's about community pride for me, and this community deserves a better facility than what we had. And I can't, we talk about in these meetings, numbers we use are in the millions, and it almost sounds as if we're sort of cavalier about that, and that it's just $3 more million or it's $26 million. It is not easy leveraging these voter-approved dollars to get $2-3 million. It takes a lot of work, and we treat it here because it's just the nature of. These are incredible gifts from the community and from other organizations, and at some point we'll probably talk about the Museum of Discovery in this show. And I just, what comes to mind is the community deserves these kinds of facilities. They expect and they deserve, and also the giving, the way in which people in this community and other organizations, arts and cultural organizations, give and give and give. And people want to invest in something that's a remarkable vision. And I think I can't say enough about just Jill's work going on over the last few years, and Marty, you attributed it to building a plan that lots of people worked on that, consultants, team, council was very supportive of that. You played a key role in that. And that vision, one of the things, and I'll go off just for a second here, what I've learned about working in other communities, what differentiates Fort Collins and is that we plan, and then we don't put plans on the shelf, we build plans. And that sounds so simple, but it's, someone referred to it as strategic doing the other day, not strategic planning. And this community is able to, they allow us, Bob, to think big and then and build. And we have a council that's very empowering that way and have been historically. And then we get to build those plans. I know lots of communities that build and don't plan, or they plan and they don't build. The combination of planning and building, believe it or not, is not, it's pretty rare. And I think that's if you look back at our history over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 decades, that I think is what will differentiate Fort Collins in the long term. So that's what I like about the Lincoln Center. Sorry.
Right, that was way more than I asked for.
That's
But
great.
that's great. Marty, could you build on that a little bit and talk about some of the other things that might be either in the strategic plan or currently in the works for the Recreation Department?
Sure, Kelly. There's some work that we've been doing to try to address the community need, particularly in South Fort Collins, for recreation facilities. If you look around the community, most of our recreation facilities are sort of north, at least, of Horsetooth. We don't have a whole lot from an indoor recreation standpoint down there. We've got great trails, we've got some beautiful new community parks and neighborhood parks going in, because that's where the new development is. But as far as a full-service cultural recreation center, we would really like to develop one of those down south. We have Fossil Creek Community Park and Spring Canyon Community Park, and we've reserved land in both of those parks when we develop them for future recreation centers. And probably the likely location for the next recreation center would be Fossil Creek Community Park. But that's a pretty major funding proposition to fund and then to operate a full-service recreation center. And so one thing Bob and I will be working on is to develop the concept for what that might look like, so that we are in a position similar to what Jill did with Lincoln Center renovation. When the next capital funding program comes around, we want to be ready with the concept. We want to have a business plan associated with that, so that we can say, here's how we'll operate it. And then a chief sort of goal of Bob's is going to be to help us to operate all of recreation and to develop this new center in a way that's going to really reduce our request to the general fund for new money to operate the new center. I mean, ideally, we would operate it without any additional general fund money. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but that's the kind of thing we're going to be working on.
Why are
So
you
no
laughing?
pressure, Bob. I'm thinking no pressure, Bob. We've got the new guy here. So tell us about, what you think as you're sitting here listening to all these things that we are
I told
going to
him
have you
before
do.
I hired.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Well, even like going through the hiring process, I did talk to him about how you can look at programs and see how we can run things more efficiently, more effectively, and I think that's one of my top goals. Even right at the start here, I'm looking at how we're doing things and how we can, as a team, come up with better, consistent policies and procedures. Send some benchmarking data with the programs, what we're doing right now, and then look at that data and then how are we going to improve that, and sit down as a team with the recreation staff and come up with plans on how we can improve that, how can we market our programs better, or whatever it may take to generate a better self-sufficiency for all the programs and cover more of their cost. And so that's one of the biggest goals I want to try to do, and then provide reports to the city management team and city council so they can look at that stuff and see where we're going and making improvements.
So I'm curious, you've been in the recreation business for a while. What are some of the things within recreation that are kind of core that you've seen remain consistent throughout your career in recreation? And are there any trends or things that have changed that you're going to be looking to bring to Fort Collins?
Well, you always have your core programs. You have your senior programs, your youth programs, different adult programs. Before we came on the show today, Jill and I were talking about maybe combining some of the recreation programs with cultural programs and doing some joint partnerships there. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the new things that are out there, is just developing partnerships within the community to bring those programs forward. And I think that's one of the big challenges I'll have too is going out and creating partnerships with private groups or even within the department. So, and so I think those are some of the things that we're doing.
Great.
And even with the recreation center that could possibly be founded in the south of Fort Collins, to consider having elements of that could serve a cultural path as well, combining recreation and culture into one facility and really creating a participation offering that doesn't exist anywhere else in Fort Collins. So there's some exciting opportunities.
And one thing we're noticing just from looking at the changes in the demographics of the community is the senior population is going to be expanding quicker than other segments of our demographic. And so we have an excellent senior center, but we also fortunately have money from this Building on Basics campaign to expand the senior center. And so one thing Bob and I are working on right now with Peggy and the rest of the staff is to get more specific on what it is that we can do with the money that's coming our way. But having a lot more cardio and weights and physical fitness spaces, and which the senior center is lacking a little bit right now, that's a big goal of ours, and we just have this opportunity to make the senior center even better, even though it's great right now. But it's really timely because the explosion, they call it the silver tsunami of older folks, just aging in Fort Collins, but I think also moving here. It's going to be great to have even a better senior center to serve that population.
And we have such an active community and an active senior population as well. That's part of what I've heard about the trends, is it's not maybe how people would use some of the traditional definitions, right? It's a very active and young senior group in some cases.
Right, yep. Yeah, the whole definition of what it means to be older is changing all the time.
You have a program like pickleball, and that's taken off. I don't know if you heard of that program, but if you go out to the senior center, they have 30 people out there playing on any given day, and they want to expand that program. I know we just put new lines over at the north side gymnasium, so we can expand that program over there as well. So.
Great. And Marty, what's the timing on that senior center expansion project? Is it coming soon?
No, it's probably the last project to be funded with the current $0.25 for capital programs. And so the funding, I believe, is design money in 2013 and construction money in 2014. And so the center wouldn't open until a year after that, approximately.
That still feels fairly soon, though.
Yeah, pretty soon. Goes fast. So.
Years just fly by.
Yes, they do.
Good. Well, while we're talking about programming, I'm kind of going back and forth here. Jill, I want to spend just a little bit of time talking about programming at the Lincoln
Sure.
Center as well, because I'm excited about all of the things you mentioned, but I am also very excited about the programming that's coming this year. And so can you talk a little bit about what you're offering?
You bet. The center is going to open the third weekend in September. We have a great weekend planned with our artwear fashion show that will be in the newly named Magnolia Theater, formerly the Mini Theater. We'll be kicking off that space, and then on the 17th we'll have the Midtown Men, which are the 4 original stars from the Jersey Boys, which is a big Broadway musical about the 4 seasons. So it's a great concert of songs from the 60s, the Beach Boys, Motown, 4 seasons, and that will be a really fun kickoff event. But we've got a fabulous season planned. Everything's up on our website, and you can check it out. But we have things from the national tour of South Pacific to Stomp is coming, to the Vienna Boys Choir, and a great Celtic show called Celtic Nights, all with Irish music. We just have a great season planned, and I think people will really enjoy it.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And people, if they're looking for more information on the shows or tickets, where would they find that?
Yes, lctix.com is our website.
All right, wonderful. One other thing about the Lincoln Center renovation we haven't talked about at all is the city's commitment toward LEED standard and building. So can you talk a little bit about
Sure.
where we're headed with that process?
Sure. We were challenged with making the renovation meet LEED Gold standards, and we are going to meet that challenge. With the renovation, it's a little more difficult than with building a new building, but we had a great team on board to help us work through that process, and we're really pleased with that. In addition to the LEED standards, we also were looking at energy efficiency. And our overall goal is to try not to increase our energy costs or consumption even though we're expanding the square footage of the building. So putting in things like vestibules, double doors into the building to retain heat and cooling, and new lighting systems and things like that that will really help us just keep our energy use down. So that was a big part of the
We've
project.
relocated the ticket office, right?
Yes,
so
we've
that
relocated
you can just
the-
have that part cooled.
That's correct. So it's
Or
on the
heated.
front of the building, so you don't have to open the whole building now if you want to just open the box office.
What's interesting too is I was just at a staff meeting with Lincoln Center staff, and they're really excited about how they're going to operate the facility and how the green and certified cleaning products they're going to use, and how they're going to manage the waste stream, and just how they're going to keep the facility looking clean and great, but do it in the most environmentally sensitive way that they can. I mean, they were really just like all over.
Yeah.
It was pretty impressive.
We've just been invited to join the Rocky Mountain Sustainability Consortium, which includes like the Pepsi Center and the Denver Center for the Arts and other big facilities, and then us who are really trying to achieve this green standard of operating. So
Great.
we're pleased to be a part of that.
Well, there is just so much good stuff going on, and as always, our time goes by so quickly. So as we wrap up, Marty, any closing comments?
For me, I'd just like to thank the citizens and the voters for passing the tax increase. It makes a huge difference for us, and we're just committed to providing the highest quality service that we can. And I just really appreciate it, and we take it seriously.
All right, great. Thank you. Bob?
Well, I'm just looking forward to my opportunities working for the City of Fort Collins, and want to remind all the citizens out there to sign up for their fall programs through the Recreator. So,
All right.
all right,
Perfect.
thanks.
Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, we're just super excited to be opening the Lincoln Center, and we appreciate all the support that we've received, and check us out.
Okay. Darren?
We're lucky to have the three of you really playing the role that you're playing in this area. And Marty, I would agree with you. I think what it takes is a deeply committed citizenry who supports quality and excellence. It takes a council who is visionary and empowering, a city council and a mayor, and then it takes a staff team that is able to pull that off and help facilitate strategic planning and actually operate these facilities to deliver on what ultimately people expected. I think this is just a great example of what a privilege it is to work here, to be part of an organization that is constantly on the move and having that kind of support. So. I appreciate the work that you guys are doing very much, and I'm as a citizen of this community, I'm delighted about the things that we talked about today and what's in store.
Great. Thanks, Darren. Well, that concludes this edition of City at a Glance. For more information, go to lctix.com or fcgov.com/recreation. Thanks for joining us.